acknowledgement of country. Yass Valley Council recognises the Ngunnawal people as the traditional custodians of land, water and sky. We pay our respect to their elders past, present and future emerging leaders. We extend our respect to other Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who live in the Yass Valley local government area. The prayer. Let us be still and remember the presence of God as we commence our meeting. Let us together pray for guidance and help. Almighty God, we ask your blessing upon this council, direct and prosper our deliberations to the true welfare of Australia and the people of Yass Valley. Thank you. We have apologies from Councillor Cameron and Councillor Butler. Someone like to move the acceptance? Councillor Turner. You have a seconder? Councillor Abbey. Thank you. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? Declare the motion carried. Any declaration of pecuniary interests or special disclosures? No. Councillor Jones.
I'm just trying to find it. With 7.1, the notice of motion, I'd just like to inform councillors that a family member of the leader in question was a director on the same company that I was, and that is no longer the case. So I feel I have no conflict and I can stand.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. Now, a minute, no, confirmation of minutes. Minutes have been circulated. Someone like to move the adoption of the minutes? Councillor Abbey, Councillor Reid. Any questions? Put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? Declare the motion carried. 6.1, proposed Wallaroo solar farm. There's a report.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I have a motion with an added section to put to the councillors tonight. As you can see in the highlighted area, there's just one extra inclusion there, that the location is inconsistent with the current rural zoning due to the potential for contamination being released into agricultural and residential areas and drinking water source waterway from the ignition of cadmium storage batteries and panels in the event of a grass fire at the site.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. Everyone happy to have that included? Yep. Someone like to move the motion? Councillor Jones, Councillor Reid. Any further discussion?
I'd like to.
Thank you, Councillor Potter.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to say that I wanted to note that this is one of many solar farms that are proposed for the area, and I actually think we need to have a policy for solar. We do have one for wind farms, but we actually don't have one for solar farms. Happy to be corrected if I'm wrong. I think we actually need to do a workshop on what we do and don't and will and won't, so that as the rest of these are coming through, we have a bit more of a clear indication as far as things like contributions, locations, how close to existing houses, businesses, so that we have more of a strategic view and a bit of guidelines to go by. Because at the moment I feel like a few of these have come up and we're sort of, I'm going to say, flying a bit blind on this one. So I think we need to consider all of the things before we actually make some hard and fast decisions about this stuff. So I'd like to propose that we have a workshop and look at writing a policy.
I'll just ask the
through Mr. Mayor, just trying to call it up on the website. We do have a policy. It's on renewables. While it does talk about wind farms, it's not just about wind farms. It talks about renewable energy generating facilities.
Mm-hmm.
So we do have a policy already, but if you need a workshop to review the policy, that's something that can be organised.
I think my question is more is how different are the solar farms to the wind farms? Because I think we've done a lot of wind farms, which a lot of that was before my time on council. But a few of these solar farms are coming through and they seem to be right in towns really close to businesses and residential houses, which the wind farms seem to be more out in the paddock. So as I said, I'm happy to be further educated if I'm off base here. But
State guidelines, the solar farms have talked about them being remote areas rather than adjacent to towns. So that's a state government guideline.
so is that in our renewables policy? How close
No,
to town?
no, it's not, but it's in a state policy. So for all of these renewable projects, they're generally state significant development, and they have to follow the state guidelines as well as local policies as well. So for the solar farms, they have the solar farm guidelines to comply with, and all our policies in relation to renewable energy.
And we're not the consent authority, so.
Yep.
Okay. Councillor Gaines.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor, I would happy to have a workshop on this particular topic. I think there's a lot of movement since we last looked at this. At that time, the threat, if you want to call it that, was the turbines, and we did look at the solar panel issue as well. So in that policy, we've got turbines / panels when we refer to the renewables. However, what I'm seeing in this is, first of all, a lot of great work from our staff in terms of drawing up the objections. So thank you very much to the planning team. Secondly, evidence that we really did need our 5 kilometre buffer actually enshrined in legislation. So it's really disappointing to see that it was not used as a lever to object to the closeness in Sutton. And I think once again, it's not going to have any traction in this. We're essentially creating, or the state government will be creating, an industrial zone between the ACT and Yass Valley, instead of what our settlement strategy was proposing when we tried to enshrine in our legislation the 5 kilometre buffer zone. And so we were told that we had all the levers necessary in our Yass Valley settlement strategy, and we're yet to see any evidence that the state government is paying any attention to Yass Valley Council at all when we say, hey, look at our settlement strategy. You know, you agreed that we had all the power that we needed to object to anything in that buffer zone. Well, this is clearly industrial. It's going to be an industrial look. It's going to sound industrial, and the proponent, in communication with the community, said that there would be drones used for the inspection of panels on a daily basis. And this is right next to an equine area. There's training and, you know, people on horses. I don't agree with this proposal at all. My next objection that I think really needs to be noted is the comment that there'll be 9 batteries when our staff have identified 36 in a different document. So which is it? Is it 9 or 36? Because in a bushfire threat, does the Wallaroo team have to defend 9 battery storage areas or 36? And I'm not a qualified firefighter, so I can't tell you what that risk is. But it's not something that is there now. It's not a risk that we've had to deal with in that area. I don't think it's something that our community should be contemplating having that in an area where there's a water source, agricultural land, organic apple tree farms, you name it. There's so much out there that needs protecting, and this is not the way to do it. And this is our 5 kilometre buffer zone, and I think we need to draw a line in the sand, put this submission forward as strongly as possible, draw the community's attention to our objections, because it's their Yass Valley settlement strategy, not just ours, and I hope it does the job. It didn't do the job in Sutton, but I'm hopeful that we'll get some attention this time.
Thank you, Councillor Gaines. Any speakers against the motion? If not, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? Declare the motion carried. Do you want to pursue with your suggestion about a workshop? Or?
If enough people support it, yes, I would.
Okay.
Just think it will help with a few that are coming behind this one as well, that we have, we have a bit more knowledge even to talk to people about.
Thank you, Councillor Pye. And 6D, development application 230012, beekeeping.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I have a question for our Director of Planning. I've had another inquiry from an apiarist from the region, and they are deeply concerned that the applicant may not be aware of the current state of the risk from. Yes, thank you. And there is some concern about the fact that they may transport bees from out of area into the area that puts at risk all of the apiarists' stock here in Yass Valley. They wanted to know, can we amend the approval so the proposer must complete an ABA course and provide details of the source of his bees?
I'll ask the director.
For you, Mr. Mayor, council's actually dealing with the actual land use of the beekeeping. There's 6 beehives. They're required to be registered as a beekeeper through the state government. So I would suggest that that particular issue be left to the agencies that regulate beekeeping in New South Wales, and it's not Yass Valley Council.
Yeah, through Mr. Mayor, I did respond to the requester that as part of the conditions, we have requested that they become licensed, and hopefully that triggers a whole series of checks and balances. Thank you, and happy to move the motion while I'm standing.
Thank you, councillor Jones. Have a second. Councillor Potter. Any further comments? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Declare the motion carried. 6.3, Yass water treatment plant upgrade. Councillor Tanner, thank you. Do we have a second? Councillor Reid. Any comments?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. My comment is, it says here that the budgets are allocated for stage 1, construction and design. I actually thought that the filtration that we did, that was already done with stage 1, is this not stage 2? Can I just confirm that? Does that make sense?
The whole project has changed now for us to have a business case developed and an options assessment. So stage 1 and stage 2, stage 3 is now gone. We're now going to the final business case to design and determine what the future of the Yass water treatment plant is going to look like.
Okay, I just thought we've done stage 1. So yeah, okay, yep.
Yeah, it did change sort of partway through, and now we need the requirement of this business case to release the remaining money to continue on.
Yep, perfect.
No further questions?
Oh, sorry, Mr. Mayor. So while we're on the topic of water, in the community there has been some questions about funding commitments to the pipeline as when I say pipes, I'm talking about the ageing pipes as part of this. Would the director like to step us out in the correct procedure to deal with this issue? I would assume that we deal with that once we've addressed the water source itself, but I just wanted to step it out because there had been a state government election commitment to that as well.
Yeah, so the separate commitment is separate to this. So this is purely for the design and business case of the water treatment plant itself. The commitment that we're hearing about is additional to this, which will have a component built into it to do the reticulation system as well as add to this project as part of it.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to get the director to explain a bit more, possibly about why we're waiting for the approval from the government as to why the hold-up is. I know for me, I've had a lot of questions as to why it's taking so long. So are you able to just give a bit more information on those approvals?
Originally, DPIA Water wanted us to wait 12 months to review what the improvements would have been from stage 1A, as you mentioned before. We've pushed back into that, and we're now pushing forward with the business case. We've got the timeline there, so we'll have the options selection briefing paper ready for us in August, and then hopefully have the final business case and paper released in December this year, which will give us our way forward out of the 3 options. pending that, then the money will be released from the HAF fund, and we'll be able to push forward and get some of the works done.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I'll put the motion then. All those in favour? Those against, declare the motion carried. 6.4, Town Water Risk Reduction Program.
Happy to make.
Thank you, councillor Jones. We have a seconder, councillor Reid. Any questions?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, if the director could just explain what percentage of the pipes is included in this and the time frame around it.
Yeah, so we've got approximately 188 kilometres of water mains will be tested, which is 100% of our water mains in the local government area. They're talking about 16 weeks to complete. That's 2 staff testing 188 kilometres of our reticulation system. So far, we're a week and a half into it and 2 leaks have been identified. One of those has already been repaired, and we are programming the second one in as we speak. It's going well.
Serious leaks, whether?
No, not serious.
Councillor Pop.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to make a comment. In undertaking things like this, I'd like to know how we can support local businesses a bit more. Like, I understand we get grants to do things like this. So, and I realise we put this out to tender and we get people who come in with specialist skills. But are we buying the stuff from local businesses? Are we supporting local? Because I know sometimes even with some of the new stuff that's happened with the playgrounds and things coming in, that they bring a lot of their materials and supplies which are purchased from other places. So just a comment as to, is there a way that we can support some of the local guys? I know a lot of local businesses are doing it pretty tough with all the rate hikes and stuff, and obviously you can buy stuff cheaper, you know, in Canberra if you're travelling in there. So that's just more of a comment than a thing. I just wanted to mention that. I think it's important we try and support local when we're getting some of these funding things through, because to me, there will be a lot of stuff purchased to fix leaks. There's a lot of, you know, materials and stuff that could actually be helping our community a bit more rather than making some of the big guys bigger. So, yeah.
I think we all agree with that philosophy, councillor Pop. The difficulty, I think, with the playground stuff and water treatment, it's fairly specialised material. It's not readily available for local businesses here. And yes, I don't know whether the director.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So this is a state government funded service. So we haven't tendered this at all. This is the state government came to us and said, this is what we can offer to do to you, funded by the state.
Mm-hmm.
We obviously took up that is the resolution. This is that we're going to take that up. Any repairs will be done in-house, generally by either first option will be in-house by council staff. If not, we'll engage contractors to do it, local contractors as best as we can.
Yeah, great.
Sure.
Through Mr. Mayor, we do have a procurement policy that does provide for local businesses to get a slight advantage in terms of if tenders are close, we would go with the local under that clause in the procurement arrangements that we've got. So there is a provision for local businesses to tender for works that we are doing if they are in that business. The difficulty is in certain for things like parks, they're not. We don't have local builders for that or constructors for those types of projects. That's why some companies from across the region bid for work and are generally successful, and unless there's a competing local business in the same activity.
No other questions? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? I declare the motion carried. 6.5, the Yass Rail Trail. It's a recommendation. Thank you, councillor Reid. Councillor Boffin. Any questions? Any comments? Anyone think it's a good idea?
I'm writing it. Simon's getting me something. What a great project, and I'm really excited that we can now get on with the nuts and bolts of this particular investigation. I think there's a real opportunity to tie this project in with so much that is about to happen with our Craigo Mill precinct. What a beautiful thing to have people from Sydney or Melbourne get off the train, potentially get on an electric bike if they're my way inclined, or perhaps one that uses your own steam, to bring them right into the heart of Yass through our beautiful scenic area, across an historic rail bridge, to get their selfies across the Yass River, send them out abroad, internationally hopefully, and then their end destination will be the restored Craigo Mill precinct. Not only that, the Yass Railway junction itself, and also be able to walk down our main street and see some of our amazing historic buildings. Connecting our community is another part that this will certainly do with the Yarra estate if it goes beyond its first allotment of homes. There will be a lot of people being able to connect through a beautiful scenic area, much safer for kids as well. And just the other day, our CEO made a very valid point that it's a very easy pathway being at grade level with a railway track, and that's great news for mums too with grants from personal experience getting up to Mester Street. But this is a terrific project. I hope that this also secures funding. It's the kind of thing that I think we'll do because it encourages exercise, it encourages tourism. And as we all saw during COVID, anything that creates spaces where people can get out and about and connect with each other in a safe way is wonderful.
And not conflicting with cars and trucks on your way into town. Councillor Potter.
Through you, Mr Mayor, I'd just like to add as well that this is very exciting, particularly on a tourism level, and it's very exciting to see something done with the old bridge down there. I particularly liked that, as it becomes quite a focal point and a really usable space, whereas at the moment it's a bit dangerous and it looks a bit decrepit. So it's exciting to see that. Hopefully we can get some funding through to have that sort of done up and make it a beautiful place to walk and be. So very excited for this.
Fingers crossed.
Definitely.
Councillor Abbey.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to concur with previous to Councillor's comments. I actually think it's a really exciting development. I think one of its real pluses is it's not too long, and I think it's going to be a really bespoke sort of development and really link things beautifully together. Whether it be at Yass Junction, through into town and right into the heart of town. So, I'm very supportive of it. Something we need.
Thanks very much, Councillor Abbey. Any further comments? Not, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? Declare the motion carried. 6.6, integrated planning and reporting documents. There is a recommendation. Someone like to move the recommendation? Councillor Jones and Councillor Reid. Thank you. Any questions? Any comments?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I would like to invite our executive to take the floor on this one, because they've certainly done the hard yards getting this out to the community, and making sure people have the opportunity to have feedback. And I just want to also note the amazing effort from our financial directorate in the many, many adjustments that they've had to attend to. And I just want to put up my thanks in that. Thank you very much, Director Saponet.
Thanks, Councillor Jones.
Thank you. Through you, Mr Mayor. Firstly, I'd like to remind everybody that the long-term financial plan that we have put out is a worst-case scenario. We are trying to be as transparent and accurate as we possibly can with the community and the council. We were unable to include the measures against the guesstimates of the long-term financial plan as we use the resources available to review the mapping of the budget to ensure the accuracy. The KPIs will continue to be recorded each quarter to the council as part of the quarterly budget review reports. And, with the limited resources that we had, I think we did pretty well by meeting 8 of the 9 essential elements in preparing what they classify as a good operational plan according to the LGIPNR guidelines. Just to comment on some of the financial comments in their submissions, I'd just like to reinstate that the increased living costs have risen substantially, not only for households but for council's budget. A couple of examples I can provide you with are, for example, this year's insurance has increased by 12.1%, a total of approximately $91,000 on last year's insurance. We have not increased the wages by only the average this year. We have increased them with new positions in there. So they haven't increased by 286, they've increased by over $1 million this year. Materials and contracts, as everyone knows, we use the 7% CPI rating as of March. Yes, they have started to very slightly decrease, as we all heard in the news last night, but I doubt that's going to stop the Reserve Bank moving forward a couple more times. And election costs have gone up substantially. They have not gone up by $40,000. They have gone up by over $70,000. So there's just a few things that I'd like to point out. And the last one is that we do have 4 loans included in this budget, including the $50 million Civic Centre, but there are 3 water loans that we still have and the Civic Centre. So I present that for council for adoption.
Thank you. Any questions? No, I'll put the motion in. All those in favour? Councillor, you're not going as far as usual.
I just want to give everyone a chance to have a say. Look, just in closing, I would like to just stress that council is in a sound financial position to take on the projects that it's committed to. And we have checks and balances which show we are. We have an audit committee, and I really want to stress that regardless of this project, within the next 3 to 5 years, we will be looking at a special rate variation. While ever we are only allowed to rate peg to the amount that we are, and while ever federal and district grants remain at the poorly amount that they are, not even at the 1% that they started at, we will never be able to maintain the roads and the infrastructure that is beholden on us. Our executive, our team of workers out in the field are punching so far above their weight for a small rural council with all the complex issues that we have juxtapositioned right next door to a huge population and cross-border issues. And I want to acknowledge the work that they do to keep us in this sound financial position. And I also want to acknowledge the Mayor and my team of councillors in keeping to the budget and looking for ways to save and looking at reasonable projects that we can do. We don't have a general fund loan yet. The Crago Mill will be the only loan that we need to maintain. That is a position that many councils could only wish for. And while our ratepayers in the water area are typically paying a third more than other local government council areas of similar state, that is because when we absolutely had to secure our water supply, we got no help from the federal government and no help from the state government. That was a project that we did alone, and that is to the credit of the Council of the Day. So I want to acknowledge that we're going into this with eyes wide open. We've done the financial work. We already knew, regardless of whether we were taking on the Crago Mill precinct, that we would need a rate variation within the next 3 to 5 years. And so we will cop criticism out there that this is all because of this particular project. But if you would walk down our main street, you would see that we are in need of some TLC, that our main street needs love. If you walk into our library, if you are lucky enough to actually
see the doorway and not go straight past it, you would know that we need a new library. And if you could see by the calibre of this room here and the cramped conditions inside for our staff, that we need a new building here. And that's not even before we've talked about how do we create a business hub area where we can grow our capacity to be a central place where businesses can launch from. That's part of the Crago Mill Precinct 2, which is part of this. The $15 million grant that we're going for is not incorporated in the financial plan. It's too early to put into this financial plan the potential to sell land as part of the Murray Abatement project or other low-hanging fruit in terms of our property basket. So when I see criticism that we are not making financial decisions, correct financial decisions regarding that project, I say look at your community and look at your councillors, and we've got this. We have so got this. This has been in the wings for decades. This is not a new idea from this council. Previous councils did a lot of legwork on this one and committed to this project, enabling us to make the sign-off decision now in this budget for a loan. So I commend this budget and I commend the work that our staff have done. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor Jones, an excellent summary. I think
I think Jim's got, oh, sorry, Jim, I think I
before I let you go, I'd like to take comment myself. I think it's goes back to 2006 that we first started looking at developing the site, and we've acquired, successive councils have acquired the land, and it's all paid for. So, thanks, Councillor Jones. Councillor,
Yeah, through you, Mr Mayor, to the Director of Corporate and Community. In our report here, there's reference under Program More Project Funding, something that's fairly specific to my mind, where it says we have not included a possible 15 million grant. Could you just elaborate and paint a picture of what the grant may be?
Through you, Mr Mayor, at this point in time, it's $15 million to contribute to construction. We haven't written the application yet. We're still reviewing the information, and that's why it's not included in the budget.
Indeed, and so that would be, do I assume it's a federal government grant?
Yes, that's correct.
thank you, Councillor Harry. Any further questions? Any further comments? If not, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? Declare the motion carried. Thank you, councillors. 6.7, the investments report. There's a recommendation. Councillor Cotton, Councillor Reid, thank you. Any questions? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? Declare the motion carried. Community strategic plan update. Going to the recommendation. Councillor Abbey. Councillor Reid. Thank you. Any questions?
through you, Mr Mayor. I look forward to this part of being a councillor. It comes up approximately every 5 years where we get to really hear the voice of our community. And it's an enlivening experience to be sitting down with members of our community and seeing where they want to be in 5 years, in 10 years, in 20 years, to be able to see the vision, particularly of our youth, of where they want to see Yass Valley, is something that I really look forward to. And I'm interested to see how this will play out in terms of what community strategic engagement the consultants will put forward when the time comes. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. Any other comments? Councillor. Oh, sorry, Councillor Abbey.
Yeah, through you, Mr Mayor.
Money I can't see out here.
With a briefing, report, there's a mention of the goals of the project. I won't read them out, but regional collaboration, synergies between local government areas and such like. can someone, perhaps the Director of Corporate Community or the CEO, just tell me to date how well that's been working and has it indeed sort of, how can I say, achieved some sort of critical mass of success?
Through Mr Mayor, the first thing to say is that the cooperation with our neighbouring councils has brought the cost of actually producing the community strategic plan down significantly for us. So that's the first thing. And in this particular, for the upcoming community strategic plan, the Canberra JO is covering the operational costs of producing, or covering the cost of the consultants this time around. So it actually comes down further this coming financial year, which is a good thing for our regional cooperation. Is actually kicking goals for us in terms of reducing some of our costs on these documents.
Any further questions? I'll put the motion. All those in favour, those against, the motion carried. 6.9, independent pricing, rate pegging review. I'll move the recommendation. Councillor Reid, Councillor Abbey. Any questions?
Oh, Mr. Mayor. I'd seek a comment from our executive. As far as I can see, this is the first time that a light bulb moment has occurred in my 11 years on council, in terms of getting any kind of recognition from IPART that the system might need a little tweaking.
Through Mr Mayor, I attended a workshop with a number of other general managers across the region held in Queanbeyan, where we met the chair of IPART, and we had a day-long workshop in relation to it. I guess the key message I got out of it was that the way the rate pegging methodology worked in the past was when we were a relatively stable economy, low inflation, high employment, and so that meant that the rate pegging methodology that was used was very consistent, because that we had for a long period of time, we had very consistent economy. What has happened in recent times is that the economy is a bit more volatile, and that approach that we used in the past is not robust enough, and hence we ended up with a silly situation not so long ago where the rate peg increase was 0.7%, and we had to apply for a special rate variation just to bring it up to an amount that which was really just an artificial increase at the time. Credit to IPART, they have recognised that the economy's changed and is changing, and they're looking at a better way of developing the rate peg for local governments. So credit to them. Certainly the JO is going to be making a submission on this, and better minds than me are going to be pulling that submission together for the region as a whole. But this report will be used as a basis for us putting forward our comments in relation to the review. But I think there's a bit more flexibility in IPART than perhaps we've seen in the past, and that's a good thing.
Certainly is. Okay, no further questions or comments? Motion, all those in favour? Those against? The motion carried. 16, library outstanding items write-off. There's a recommendation. Councillor Abbey, Councillor Turner. Any discussion?
My question, I've got a couple of questions. Firstly, we note that the number of items being written off to a value of $8,500. In the report, it mentions the remaining 145 items valued at about $3,500. Those items, can someone paint a picture? Do they tend to be DVDs, or are they books, or such the like?
Through you, Mr Mayor, they're a combination of all items.
And then following on from that, there's reference here that to try and get these items returned, you'll be sending them a letter, and they've got 6 weeks, and then if they're not returned, they may well be charged. Is that policy that you have, that you charge for outstanding items?
Through you, Mr Mayor, yes, we have a policy where we charge for items that cannot be, that need to be replaced.
No further questions? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? Declare the motion carried. 611, Marlborough Playground and Project Committee. 611.
Through you, Mr Mayor, if we can move 6.11, 6.12, 6.13, 6.14 and 6.15 through to confidential.
Thank you, councillor Yass. We have a second. Councillor Turner, thank you. Any discussion? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? Declare the motion carried. The next item is 16. Petition.
I could propose a fresh motion, incorporating the one that we already have, that council notes the tabling of the Maitland Winery Trail completion petition. And these next points, that once the highway duplication design has been completed, council continues to seek further grant funding, finalise the design and construction of the Maitland Winery Trail along Macintosh Circuit from Scrubby Lane to Maitland Winery. And that council staff consider the interim measure of mowing and slashing a pathway in the consider the measure of mowing and slashing a pathway in the interim, and reports back to council at the July meeting as to the feasibility of this option. Because I don't want to commit you to mowing and slashing something if you come back and you tell me there's a reason.
Especially when it's endangered and threatened vegetation.
Yeah.
And we've also got a number of issues in that area in terms of level differences. As we reported previously, it's likely that there might need to be retaining walls installed to provide a safe passage. It's probably the most challenging, other than the crossing of the actual Barton Highway itself, that for that section of the road. So that's why it was pulled up short to Scrubby Lane, which allows to connect into the network at Jubilee, but it doesn't provide the crossing to the road or to the winery at this stage. If we built it to the highway, all we're doing is actually creating another risk by suggesting that people can cross the road at that point when there is no crossing at that particular point. So
So delete 3. Sorry.
no, I think 3 is a bit of an issue. I mean, we can certainly look at it, and I'm happy to take that on notice rather than make it a council resolution. We'll need to look at some investigations about what we can and can't do in that area. I think
Did you want to call it request council staff investigate?
Yeah,
And report
Interim
and
measure.
prepare a
yeah.
Thank you.
Just on that, I think the simplest option at the moment would be to narrow the road, which will then cause problems for the vehicles, which is probably something that most residents would not want either. So this is the challenge with that section of road. It's, as I say, it's particularly challenging.
Sure, if you need assistance there, staff investigate access options and just delete all that and report back to council at the July meeting. We'll talk a bit about the feasibility of this option.
delete from, yeah. And then delete feasibility of this option. Yeah, adds to the, yeah, thank you so much.
Just in relation to the second dot point there, while the crossing is going to be a challenge,
Yeah.
and really at the end of the day, because we don't know what the design is going to be, and how much of what we do is going to fit with the ultimate design. There's no reason why we couldn't look at the end of the rail trail where it is at the present time and look at doing that back to
Winery trail.
winery trail back towards the highway or where the duplication is going to be. So there is possibly the opportunity of looking at stage 2 in 2 sections.
Okay.
So extend where we're up to at the moment, which I think is around 4 winds, and look at the loop as it comes back toward the highway. But again, we'll need to pull up short until we know exactly what the design is. That design, the Mayor and I raised with the Minister for Roads about, because the next stage of the design, which is underway at the moment, only finishes at Europa Avenue. So one of the things that we could look at is, one of the things we advocated to the Minister for Roads was to start the design of the bypass of Murrumbateman now, in anticipation of further funding being provided down the track. But from our perspective, in terms of the winery trail, I think the key issue for us is understanding what the design implications are going to be for the trail in relation to the duplication. We might have to actually look at a different approach, depending on what that design is. So other than that, I think we just have to exercise a bit of caution at this stage.
Could you add the word interim access options? Thank you. So interim.
Could I just have a clarification on what you mean by that?
So if we're not
Interim
so
access to what?
before there is the Barton Highway design, in this interim, there have been some suggestions of, slashing and mowing, but there could be another route to create or narrowing of the road to create safer options. So if we can get some ideas tabled and look at what's the safest and what's the economical and what's achievable in that space without the backlash of us doing a lot of headworks only to find that the Barton Highway design doesn't.
Sorry, I'm not trying to short circuit the processes. I just wanted to. The issue is one of safety. How can we improve the safety on that stretch of road? Can we get council staff to look at that if there's any possible way? Because at the moment it is extremely unsafe. People cannot walk on the side of the road. They have to walk on the road itself. And it really is a serious. When I first moved out there, it wasn't an issue at all. Now it is a serious issue because there's a lot of heavy traffic going on there.
The difficulty is that we've got threatened and endangered species in that area. So if you clear fell them,
Are you talking about the humans or the?
I'm talking about the trees and the grasses.
Yep.
And this is a serious issue. I mean, if we remove all of those, you're going to be looking at an offset somewhere, and you would have to demonstrate that you cannot possibly avoid the removal of those trees. It is not a simple process.
I agree. I'm just asking for staff to look at how to make it safer for
Councillor Taylor.
Mr. Mayor, may I remind councillors it's customary to remain standing when addressing the chair.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor.
Look, it would be a design project in itself. We would need to undertake. There are standards that we have to meet for the infrastructure. And again, there's going to be impacts on that roadside vegetation, underground services, which are challenge as well. We can't make sure we're there accessible down the track as well. We could look at putting a small design brief out to somebody to look at that. But council would need to resource that because it's not been identified at this stage in the budget.
Thank you. Councillor Potter.
Through you, Mr Mayor, just going off what Councillor Reid's talking about, because I do agree that I think safety is a big issue and is obviously really important. Obviously there's kids on that road and buses and things. Is there any way that we could put this through the traffic committee to maybe, I know it's not going to be popular, sorry, but to maybe get the speed reduced? Because that road is doing a lot more than what it used to. Is there a way it could be brought down a bit slower? Does that?
The traffic committee doesn't control speed. That's the Transport for New South Wales do that. You actually report those to seek a review. So that it doesn't go to the traffic committee. Don't make decisions on road speeds. The design, if we do a design, that more than likely would be something the traffic committee, local traffic committee would look at and form a view of that. But they're not going to. You're not going. It's no use taking it there without some design options. They need to look at something to say, yeah, this does meet the requirements or it doesn't meet the requirements.
But like if the speed and stuff is an issue, because, and obviously there's a lot of trucks and things which didn't used to use that road, is there a way then we can take it to Transport, who did you just say does the speeds?
Transport for New South
So Transport New South Wales.
Wales.
But would they do an assessment on the road to at least check that the bus stops and things were easily accessible?
Just look at the speed. And that's the thing is that this is part of the issue with speed reviews is that they will just look at the technical guidelines, and again, that we are not delegated to be able to make decisions. We have an opinion, but we can't. We don't change the speed limits.
Can we still ask them for a review of that road?
Anyone can ask for a review. It's just an online. You lodge it online.
Okay. Yep.
Mr. Mayor, can I facilitate this debate by saying?
You beat me to something. I was going to say, just have one more thing. Noting Councillor Butler's passion that we communicate more effectively or more often to try and get our message heard regarding this matter in Murray. Could we add another dot point, please, that council engage its media team to communicate current constraints and council's plan for the winery trail completion?
We've certainly done that before.
It could be required more. It's just like the amount of inquiries she's getting, it doesn't seem that our message is being received loud and clear. And certainly not in criticism of the efforts previously made by our media team, just let's have another crack.
Can you just repeat that?
So I sent it to you, but it may not have arrived yet. So that council engage its media team to communicate current constraints and council's plan for the winery trail completion. Because if the community thinks that we just don't want to get on with the job, or we're not prepared to fund it, when the constraint lies in the partly in the Barton Harbour duplication, partly in the vulnerable environmental area. I think we need to communicate this. Yeah, just put it out this.
Okay, everyone happy now? I'll put the motion then, all those in favour? Those against? Declare the motion carried. Okay. We have a notice of motion from Councillor Turner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
We have a seconder? Councillor Abbey, thank you, Councillor Abbey.
Let's be clear which motion.
My motion at this point in time.
As printed in the business paper.
As included, as in the business paper. And I want to start by moving this by making an apology to Mr. Smith. I had not noticed, and indeed mea culpa, his name is mentioned in the motion, and under normal circumstances, the names of the ratepayers are not mentioned in the spreadsheet. I missed it, and it was missed, and it shouldn't be there. So I personally apologise to Mr. Smith for including his name in the motion, and I would urge all of the people in this room to disregard the personalities that are involved in this motion. This motion is about representation and remedy. And I will talk more to it.
So,
Following debate.
Mr. Mayor, Councillor Turner, we're just getting it typed up because there's been a couple of other options as well being floated around also. So just bear with us a moment. So with your adjustment there, Councillor Turner, is that?
Yes, other than I would like it if the was conducted as a final inspection. Where conducted is missing.
In the documentation. After the builder.
Thank you, that covers the matter quite nicely.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I would like to propose an amendment, if possible. And if Sheree could oblige me and scroll down a little. My amendment is sitting there for you to read. It's got a couple of dot points. That the inspection conducted at that location at the request of the builder was conducted as a final inspection, and the matters identified as unsatisfactory were in fact incomplete or unfinished works already known to the applicant, as listed in Councillor Turner's motion. Now here's where it changes. I've given some further dot points. As a result of the prematurely conducted final building inspection, the builder of the development has been provided with a list from council staff of the outstanding works to be completed. Once the builder has completed the outstanding works, he can book a final inspection. Any requests for building inspections conducted by council staff are only for critical stage inspections, and bookings are to be made online through council's website. Council acknowledges in this particular instance the builder was directed by council to select this option instead of booking a progress meeting on site. Any request seeking clarification of building requirements is to be made as an appointment to discuss with a relevant officer through council's customer service officers planning. In acknowledgement of council's role in this matter to date, a meeting has already been provided to the builder along with a clarification of BCA requirements. If any further clarification is needed, this can be booked as an appointment. And it's my understanding that those meeting that there is no cost involved in that. But I just want to clarify.
It's through Mr. Mayor. Just having an appointment with the staff to discuss clarify an issue, or it's just a bit like a pre-lodgement meeting. We don't charge for those. We do charge for the inspections, which are the critical stage inspections. In this particular case, when the inspection was booked, there were two parts to the booking. The first part was for a frame inspection, which a charge was applied to, and the second part, which was listed as a final was not charged for.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, if the mover is happy for those adjustments.
I'm comfortable with the two procedural points. The last two I would consider to be operational matters. This is a motion about the procedure. That, I think anyone can find that on the website now. That's the procedure that is normal in this operation. I don't see any reason to include it in the motion. Sorry.
In the bottom, are you talking about the second from the bottom? Through you, Mr. Mayor. The second one from the bottom.
Really?
The reason why they included the second one from the bottom, that any request for building inspections conducted by council staff are only for critical stage inspections, and bookings are to be made online through council's website. Full stop. Council acknowledges in this particular instance the builder was directed by council to select this option instead of booking a progress meeting on site. Even though this is an operational instruction, the reason why I've included it in the motion is to, one, show what our normal process is, and to show what happened, and that helps, I guess, ensure that anyone reading this motion understands why an otherwise operational matter is before council. I'd also like to clarify that I sought advice from our CEO, and he's quite confident that information that was missing from the inspection, the comment section in this particular instance, is usually and always included in other instances. So this is just a one-off error that those comments were not provided with the building inspection form in this instance.
Through Mr. Mayor, that's not quite right.
Oh,
No, they are.
clarify.
So the
Yeah.
when an inspection is booked online, that comment was included that it was not a final inspection. That booking goes directly to the building surveyors, so they have the full wording.
In usual instances, it's my understanding that was either not there or
No,
not
it was there.
noticed.
That was there.
It was there.
It was there. It was there. That in the booking registration, it had the two inspections: the frame inspection, final inspection, and then it had a note to say that it was not intended to be a final inspection. It was more of a progress inspection, which I think caused confusion because we don't have progress inspections. So I think that presumably the staff member saw the conflict there and acted what he thought was being requested.
Okay, you happy with the amendments proposed, Councillor Turner?
I can't say that I'm happy with them. However, I think that in the spirit of compromise, I'll accept the intent of the modifications, provided we still have debate on the procedures that have been followed.
Okay. So the amendments are incorporated now into Councillor Turner's motion. Do you wish to speak to it, Councillor Turner?
Please, Elaine. What I do is like to take you back to step one and draw your reference to an email received on December the 14th or sent on December the 14th. Just to set the record right, I needed to get a frame awning inspector. A redacted staff member name who is no longer with council, and I have had 4 different inspections to date, and I thought it would be a good time to have a conversation about what council has inspected to date and what lays in front of me getting a final. The website booking does not give me such an option. I went to council and the advice I received was to book the frame inspections and a final. He said he would talk to you and prep you on what I'm wanting. I did everything possible to make this happen. And now you've gone ahead and provided me with a 31-page inspection fail that is very upsetting and not what I need and wanted, even though we had a conversation on the day you attended the site post-appointment time. Let's be quite clear. I did not want a final inspection nor 31 pages of what I needed to do, as most of what is in the report I know and was working towards completion of the task. An email at the same time, or very shortly thereafter from me, said, seriously, Brian Frey can see he's not ready for a final. He didn't ask for a final, why give him one? I suggest it gets torn up and we start again with what he actually requested rather than starting 2023 with a conflict that won't go away. There is no point in compounding the errors made thus far by making more. And here we are 6 months later. This is akin to someone getting demerit points. The beauty of a demerit point system is that if you wait long enough and you behave yourself and you keep your nose clean, the demerit points go away. They don't go away in a final. They're there as a matter of permanent record, 31 points, defect, D-notice. There is an expectation, or should be an expectation from a ratepayer when you ask for something, that at least he's given a caution as to what the results of doing something are. If you tick the box final, you will get a final. I don't believe he was given that caution, and I believe he deserved it. Also, as a common precept in law, there's a line of appeal. In this case, his line of appeal was, if you don't like it, go to the Ombudsman. I believe we were elected as councillors to represent those people who elected our ratepayers. We need to have a mechanism of being able to represent our ratepayers without fear or favour at any given time and not have things hidden away because we determine what the result is on a Tuesday rather than in open debate. This is a forum where these things should be debated and all of the general public should know that council takes these things seriously. I don't want to see this person go to the Ombudsman. I want to see it debated and I want to see the Westminster system followed through. If you have a problem at a state level, you go to your local member. And the local member makes representations on your behalf. If you have a federal issue, you go to the federal member and she makes representations on your behalf to the Parliament. Ratepayers should expect nothing less. They should be able to come to councils to ask them to make representations, and those councillors should try and find some remedy that is suitable to everybody. And in this case, I think that we maybe have found the remedy in Councillor Jones's modification to my debate. And the question, I guess, that you have to ask yourselves, that if we don't have a part in this, why were we re-elected?
Through Mr. Mayor, just a comment. When operational decisions are made, the correct course of event is to go to the Ombudsman because they can review a decision of an officer. If council reviews the decision, the option of going to the Ombudsman is removed. The Ombudsman cannot review a council decision, but can review a decision made by an officer. It's an important difference in the way the systems work. So that needs to be understood. Is that if it's an operational decision, ideally it should go to the Ombudsman. If it comes to council and council makes a decision in respect of it, that option of going to the Ombudsman is removed.
Thank you, Barry. Any speakers against the motion? Councillor Reid.
Yes, thank you, everybody. I'm not certain that I'm against the overall intent of the motion. I think it's I think there's been an issue here that we could have better addressed in different ways. I think there was issues on both sides, and there was miscommunication. And I think, to be honest, I don't think this matter should be before council. I agree that as a representative of the ratepayers, that I should be coming to council and council and the executive and saying, look, we have issues. Should these kind of matters, these operational matters, end up here in council at a meeting of this level? I don't believe so. I believe this was, excuse the phrase, a comedy of errors. There was a number of errors and other issues where somebody actually gave advice that they thought was legitimate advice and followed through on that. I agree that the developer has had a bit of an issue there with the fact that he's got a final assessment, but all that he's got is a list of what he needs to attend to get his final certificate of approval. Why we are debating this or discussing this at this level beats me. We're now getting into a situation where prescriptively we're trying to tell staff how to do their job. That is not our job, and never would be. Actually, I'm against that. Sorry.
Thank you, Councillor Reid.
Just feel that there's a better way of doing this.
Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We are a business. We provide a lot of services ourselves. We buy a lot of products, we purchase gravel, etc. We do roads, but we also provide services. And under the Fair Trading Act, as a service provider for which we charge a fee, we have obligations. And going to the Ombudsman should be a last resort before the actual service provider has an opportunity to address these grievances. So when you engage a business to provide a service, you have the right to expect acceptable quality, and that services must be provided with due care or skill, taking all necessary steps to avoid fit for any specified purpose, express or implied, emphasis on the implied there, provided in a reasonable time. Now, the remedy for when things go wrong, according to the Department of Fair Trading, is you are entitled to an appropriate remedy from the business when the product or service you purchase does not meet one or more of the consumer guarantees. Now, this might be a refund, a further service to rectify the problem, and in some cases, reimbursement for damages and consequential loss. I cannot put a value on the consequential loss of having a final with 32 points of failure on the record of a building. I'm not in that business now, I can't tell you that. But what I can tell you is that we implied something, we expressed something when our very well-meaning staff tried to give our customer something that we don't provide. They asked them to tick a box in order to get a service that we don't give, instead of saying, I'm sorry, we don't provide that service. And so in our attempt to satisfy a customer with a service that we don't provide, we have made an error, and I think we need to acknowledge that and make good as best we can. And I think what we can do is follow these steps. We have acknowledged our role in this, and mistakes were also made by the applicant as well for this. So I think we have an opportunity to do our duty by the Act, and I think we have a duty as councillors to see that an impasse has occurred at the operational level, and this is the way to clear this and move forward.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. Any further speakers against the motion?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to also speak against the motion. I actually agree with Councillor Reid, and I think this is purely an operational matter. I can see mistakes have been made on both sides. I've done a lot of reading of all of what this is about, and I feel like, as much as it's an operational matter, I feel like the steps have already been made, the appointments already been made to rectify this. So I don't understand why this is before council, and why, you know, we're doing this. So.
Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you. I do have a question through the CEO to the Director of Planning. What we've said here, it's been repeated a couple of times, was that the developer did tick the box for a final inspection. Is that correct? Do we have a record that he knowingly did that? He may have been perhaps misled to some degree, but he knowingly knew that he was going to get a final report, did he not?
I think it was by qualification, wasn't it? I think he ticked the box, but he also put a note.
Right.
Because there wasn't a box for the pre-inspection that he wanted, because that is a service that's not provided by council, the normal course of events. Sorry, Director.
Do you want me to speak?
Please.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, thank you. Just to correct, so it's on the record, the booking says type of plumbing or building inspection, frame, then there's brackets with some words in it, / final required prior to occupation certificate. There was a note added to the booking around the request for essentially information type inspection. One inspection was paid for, which was the actual frame inspection. There was no payment made for the final.
Okay, prepare to vote. Councillor Turner.
Just in closing debate, if I may. I'm aware of personalities involved in this. I urge councillors to look at this as Bob the Builder, not as anyone else. If you are Bob the Builder and you have 31 pages of a final report with 32 demerit points on that are going to stay there for over a day, would you not want to have an avenue of appeal? I believe we as their representatives are that avenue of appeal. It is better for everybody if the appeal process goes through council first before it goes to the Ombudsman. I'm absolutely gobsmacked that going to council abrogates anyone's responsibility to go to the Ombudsman. The Ombudsman has to be the final appeal. It's like saying you abrogate your right to go to the High Court. If you go through the Westminster system, you can't go to the High Court, sorry, because you've already been to the local court. That is rubbish. I urge you to vote for this motion.
Okay, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? 4, 5. Those against? Councillor Reid, Councillor Potts. Declare the motion carried. We go on to questions with notice. Is the response provided?
Mayor, take it as read.
Yep. No comments? Minutes of the local traffic committee. There's a recommendation. Councillor Burgess. Have a seconder. Councillor Turner. You've got a question, Councillor Burgess.
I've seen in the papers for the meeting that the downing for the 50-kilometre thing, but I can't see any answers anywhere. What they do about the moving the 50 out past 2 or 3 houses. What's the answer? What was the answer? There's nothing in anywhere. I can't find anywhere. Is it going to be moved or not?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, would be a request that would have to go to Transport for New South Wales for their approval. So any speed restrictions or movement of speed zones need to go to Transport for New South Wales for their review, subsequent approval before we can move any of the zones.
But it was in the meeting for the traffic committee.
I'm pretty sure that one of the participants was going to do it on their behalf rather than council doing it, if I recall correctly.
People asked.
It's one of the committee members was going to do that request to Transport for New South Wales for that review. I will follow it up with you though, yes. Yeah.
Okay. Councillor Avery.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, to the Director of Infrastructure and Assets. When dealing with Transport for New South Wales, it was stated earlier that you want to change the speed limit. That's something they do. But does that also apply to, say, a sign, a speed sign, where you'd like it moved not changing the actual number of kilometres, but moving its location.
Yeah, through you, Mr Mayor, yes, that's correct. It still needs to be reviewed. If you're going to change the zone in any way, whether it's a change in speed restriction or moving the zone further along the road or reducing that, it still needs to be reviewed by Transport for New South Wales as they're the delegated authority for speed limits.
Okay, no further questions? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against, declare the motion carried. Minutes of the Country Mayors Association meeting held on the 26th of May. There's a recommendation, Councillor Turner and Councillor Reid. Any questions? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against, declare the motion carried. Minutes of the Sustainability Advisory Committee meeting. Again, a recommendation. Councillor Reid, Councillor Burgess, any questions? Any comments? If not, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against, declare it carried. Minutes of the Youth Council held on the 5th of June. Again, a recommendation. Councillor Botham, Councillor Burgess. Any questions, any comments? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Declare the motion carried. Minutes of the Yass Soldiers Memorial Hall Advisory Committee.
I'll second it, Councillor Turner.
Councillor Turner, Councillor Abbey. Any questions, any comments? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against, declare the motion carried. Someone like to move, we move into closed session. Councillor Turner, Councillor Abbey. Okay, put the motion. All those in favour? Those against, declare the motion carried. Okay, thank you. To the members of the public gallery for your great patience in sitting through that. Good night.